Welcome everybody to another tutorial in Moonbeam Manor. I am working on new columns and cemetery fence for my yard haunt. I'll probably get into the columns in a later video, and today we're going to be talking about the cemetery fence. Now, this is the way I do it. People have different designs and everything. I've seen it like with just using wood, but I use both wood and PVC pipe. What I use is a 1-inch pipe circumference, and I will cut it down starting from starting about giving it at a 36-inch in length, and I'll come down 2 inches for each cut. The first one is 36, second one is 34, third one is 32, and go down to 30. So we're going to start with that. Just going to start with 36. Now you can use any length you want. That's just my preference, is the 36, 34, 32 method. Yeah. All right, I got my first one cut at 36 inches. And now I do own, and you can use, I think it's like PVC cutters, like a giant pair of scissors type things that's made to cut this PVC pipe. But the PVC pipe I gotten, I don't know if you can tell, is real thin. So when I try using those cutters, it just kind of flattens it. So I'm choosing not to use that for this. If you get a thicker pipe, then by all means use that. So I got a 36. Next one I'm going to use is a 34. Don't you hate it when that happens? Find the 34 right there. Make my mark. Over here. There we go. That's better for me. Yeah. There's my 34. And so my next cut will be a 32. Get that marked. And start cutting. So at this point, you have 3 pipes that look like this. Kind of. Now there's not enough pipe to cut my 30 on that one, so you probably have to get a few lengths of pipes. at your local hardware store. And once you get your pipes cut, you set them aside, and you'll get ready to set them aside and paint them, spray paint them. Preferably for me, it is a gloss black, which I am out of at the moment, so I will not be painting them on screen, but you'll know off screen these things will be painted a gloss black. So let's move on to the, I'm not sure really what it's called now, but the other parts of the fence. So we'll get to that in just a second. Hold on. All right, next you want to get some wood that is at least, I would say anywhere from 2.5 to 3 inches wide and only about an inch thick. You can use any length that you want to use, but yeah, use any length that you want to use. I got a scrap piece right here I'm going to use for this sample. But make it about any length, but I would say at least, at the very least, 8 pipes worth. And I'll show you why in a minute. So once you get your, like I said, about 2.5 to 3 inches wide to an inch thick wood, you're going to want to measure it at least 2 inches from the end, right here, and then measure it about 6 inches from there. So you got 8 inches, and then you also have about somewhere around 14 inches, at least about 6 inches apart. And then you want to drill holes, circular holes through it. See if I can adjust my camera a bit so you can see. All right, depending on your pipes, like I said, I'm using 1-inch pipes. I'm using a bit here that's, I can't remember what these things are called. You can use a spade or anything like that. I happen to use this, but you want to make it just a little bit wider. So let's drill this in. I'm very amateurish, so you want to try to get it as centered as possible. Now I only like to go about halfway through. Only go about halfway through and turn it around, size it up and come in on the other side. This prevents blowout and also makes it easier to get these little things out of your drill. You wanted something like this. Now, this, like I said, this is a scrap piece of wood, so I didn't quite get it even all the way across, but you want to try to get it as even as possible, in the middle as possible. And your goal really is so you can fit your pipe through the center here. And once you've done all that, you want to paint this, your wood black on all sides. So you paint this, say this side, wait for it to dry, flip it over, paint this side, and at some point you also want to paint this black. And we'll get to that. That's how you start your fence up. Now I should have mentioned before that when you do your wood, make the length of your fence, you're going to want 3 of these, from the way I do it. And what you do is when you put your pipes in, you want about 4 inches from the bottom. And start putting your pipes in, you're going to want them at least 4 inches from the bottom here. Now, I've made this little jig that's 4 inches deep that I use. That way when I push my pipes through, I can get them all even across the bottom. Get this so I can even this up. Now, I've got these old pipes that I have, I've made fences before, and the wood rotted, and that'll happen in a few years. But so these are already painted. They're scratched up. They'll get scratched up also when you put them through here. So don't worry about that. You can just take your spray paint and touch it up. And I would usually recommend starting with your tallest, your 36-inch pipe, your 36, your 34s, 32s, and you put 2 30s. Then you go back with 32s, 34, and 36. That's why I said earlier, at least make your fence about 8 poles wide. That way they all fit. And what I'll do is I'll put a screw in the back of the pipe. Make sure the pipe stays in there. Take the next pipe, and we do this again. And once you get all your jig done, you could just move the jig over. I apologize for all the sweating. The humidity here in North Carolina is just atrocious. And while I do have a workshop, I don't have it, it's not AC. And plus these are, this project a little too big to be doing in the workshop right now. Workshop's a mess. And you just keep going down the line, adding your pipes. And adding your screws. and I will pause it here until we get to the next step. All right, once you've got your poles in place, like I said, 4 inches on the bottom down, you want to get your second piece of wood and set it on top. Drive it down. You doggies. Make sure your pipes go through these holes. Kind of like that. Now, I like to, you don't need as many screws in this one. I do suggest screwing in all of the bottom, but not so much here or the next one. And I would probably highly recommend that you drill pilot holes for your screws. I unfortunately did not do that. For me, I want to make sure it's about 18 inches from your bottom post. So right about there. Now let's come over here. We're going to get the drill started. Okay. Make sure it's about 18 inches on this side. I'll make sure it's 18 on this side. Yeah. Right about there. Now I'm just going to make sure that it's 18, ouch, 18 inches across the bottom here too. get a little behind, right about there. There you have that. Then you want to take your third and final long piece of wood and do the same thing you did earlier with the first one. If you need to, get yourself a rubber mallet. Drive these things down. All right, now I got about a 2.5 inch space between here, just where I want it. And once again, I'm going to take a couple of screws drive them in. And that is how I do my cemetery fence. Now, I had talked earlier and said the ideal thing is about 8 posts. The reason for that it starts with the largest and ends with the largest. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, 8. Now for toppers, I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. Earlier I had bought like these plastic skulls, drill holes in the bottom and put them across the top. It was okay, but not exactly the look I was going for. So I'm going to try to come up with another topper, and we'll discuss that in the next video. And well, probably not the next video. I think the next video I'm going to do is I'm going to take a trip to the Spirit Halloween that is opened here in Greensboro, and I'll probably do some video on that if I can. But yeah, this is how I do my cemetery fence, and I will show you how it looks on the column. And so for the next tutorial video, I will show you how to add them to the column and how to make the columns themselves. So yeah, here we go. This is how the fence attaches to the column, how it'll look. As you can see, I've already started working on some of the columns, and I'm going to show you that in the next tutorial video on how I do it. Now you can see down here, right here, that putting the pipes through the wood can sometimes scratch the paint off the pipes. Don't worry about that. Just go over your scratch parts with your not floss, but gloss flat paint. And these things ought to be looking really good. So, yeah, this is how I do the cemetery fence. And soon I will be talking about the column, how I do those, and go make something. Keep Halloween alive. See you next time.